Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Meshegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes sweet and sassy. Not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Did you guys have enough of me today yet? Welcome to this emergency live stream. Well, no spoilers, but many of you may have seen this. Many of you may have not seen this. But I saw this and about 50 of you sent it to me. So I thought, I guess they want me to talk about it. So I'm here. Just need a little lipstick and I can get right back on the air with you guys. This is crazy. Remember how they said the federal investigation is over and the feds aren't doing anything and they're gone? And well, guess what? They're not. They're not. Although the Boston Globe put out this story and I don't know who their sources are. So I don't even know if I can say that this is like 100% accurate, because does the Boston Globe vet their sources? And then everybody else picked it up too. So then WCVB picked it up. Everybody picked it up. And apparently one of the grand jurors in the federal grand jury of the Karen Read case has been charged with leaking information. This papers. I got the papers. I got the papers. I got the papers. I got the press release from the US DOJ, except nowhere does it say in any official press release or federal court document that I have, all the papers, nowhere in any of the official documents does it say that it's related to the Karen Read case. And so the Boston Globe says it has to do with the Karen Read case. And so now we're going to read it together. We're going to, surmise together, and we are going to corroborate. We're going to be very corroborative. And we're going to try and figure out what it is, because it's hard to really discern what it is. But here's the official press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts. Remember, Josh Levy was the acting U.S. attorney when Michael Marcy was going berserk, writing all those letters. She's telling them everything. Writing all of those letters furiously to Josh Levy, him and Lynn Beeland, who has since jumped ship and left skid marks. They were writing all of those letters to Josh Levy. Frantic. We need to know what you're investigating. We heard that you've subpoenaed people to testify in front of a federal grand jury, and we have Brady obligations, and we need to know what it is that you know. And Michael Marcy and Lynn Beeland were writing all of those letters back and forth to U.S. Attorney's Office. That's when Josh Levy was the acting U.S. attorney. And now it's Leah Foley. And here is the press release from today from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts. Massachusetts woman charged with leaking grand jury information. And this was just today. I mean, literally, like, I don't know, maybe an hour ago. Like, I had to get ready, I had to get home, and I had to get here for you. It's Melanie After Dark. I got the backlights that are red behind me. Okay, tell me how to pronounce this town in Massachusetts, because I'm not going to butcher it. I need a pronunciation from someone who actually lives there and can actually pronounce the town that is spelled Dracut. Dracut. Give me a pronunciation, please. Dracut or Dracut. I would say Dracut. Okay, that's what I would have said. Okay. Here is the press release. A Dracut, Massachusetts woman has been charged with allegedly disclosing information presented to a federal grand jury to unauthorized individuals, plural. Jessica M. Leslie, 34, was charged on Friday, July 11th, 2025, with one count of criminal contempt. The defendant has agreed to plead guilty and will make an initial appearance in federal court in Boston at a later date. That later date I have confirmed to be July 22nd, which is just next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday, Jessica Leslie. A plea hearing has not yet been scheduled by the court. Okay, so she's already been charged. She's already pleading guilty, and they've already reached a plea agreement. This has been going on for, I would surmise, a while. To anyone else who's emailing me all these documents right now, thank you. But if you're not live with me, then I guess you don't know that I already have them. According to the charging document, on various dates between August 11th, 2022 and March 4th of 2024, the defendant disclosed sealed information to unauthorized individuals, including the names of various witnesses appearing before a federal grand jury, the substance of witness testimony and other evidence presented to the grand jury in violation of the federal rules and court order. I want to point out various dates beginning August 11th, 2022. That is way before Aidan Carney ever got involved in reporting on the Karen Read case. And that means that the feds were already looking into this case by August 11th of 2022. That is 7 months after the murder of John O'Keefe. Is it possible they were looking at other things as well, in addition to the murder of John O'Keefe and the Karen Read case? Maybe. The charge of criminal contempt provides for a sentence of any term of years in prison, 5 years of supervised release, and a fine of up to $250,000. Sentences are imposed by a federal district court judge based upon the U.S. sentencing guidelines and statutes which govern the determination of a sentence in a criminal case. United States Attorney Leah B. Foley and Ted E. Docks, special agent in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Boston, made the announcement today. Assistant U.S. Attorney Ann Peruti, chief of the Major Crimes Unit, is prosecuting the case. The details contained in the charging documents are allegations. The defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. Here's Leah Foley. She is now the acting U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts. She's getting it done. Now, doesn't say anywhere in that press release that it's the Karen Read case, but the Boston Globe is reporting that according to its sources, it is. So let's look at the Boston Globe article before we look at the information in the plea agreement, because this all happened very quickly. Didn't even hit the docket until Friday. So let's check out the Boston Globe article that was just published at like an hour ago. Federal officials charge grand juror in Karen Reed investigation with leaking information. No, I have all the document. I have all the papers. Thank you, though. I have all the papers. I wouldn't go live unless I had the papers. Why would I go live without the papers? A Dracut woman who sat on the federal grand jury that investigated the state's handling of Karen Reed's murder case. Well, it's really John O'Keefe's murder case, but all right, Karen Reed's murder case has been charged with criminal contempt for allegedly leaking information about the secret proceedings. Jessica M. Leslie, 34, was charged Friday in federal court in Boston with 1 count of criminal contempt and has agreed to plead guilty, according to an announcement Tuesday by U.S. Attorney Leah Foley and Ted Dock, special agent in charge of the FBI's Boston office. I mean, today's already Tuesday. The fact that this didn't leak until today, well, I guess the leak has been plugged because Jessica Leslie has been charged. A plea agreement signed by Leslie Tuesday says the government and defense have agreed to recommend that she be sentenced to 1 day deemed served, meaning she will not spend any time in prison if the judge adopts the recommendation. The hearing date has yet to be set. Well, that's what they say, but according to Pacer, the initial appearance is going to be on July 22nd, which is, I think it's next Tuesday. In courtroom 24 at 11:15 a.m. before Magistrate Judge M. Page Kelly. I guess that wasn't posted on the Pacer website until after this article broke at 5:52 p.m. Eastern. Oh, so it was really 2 hours ago. Sorry, I'm late. Sorry, I'm late, you guys. Leslie is accused of disclosing sealed information about the secret grand jury proceedings between August 11th, 2022 and March 4th of 2024, including the names of various witnesses who appeared before the grand jury, the substance of their testimony, and other evidence presented to the grand jury in violation of federal rules and a court order, according to the statement. Dracut? Everyone else said it was Dracut. Come on, man. Come on, Cheech. I asked at the beginning of the stream, I said, somebody who really lives there, please tell me how it's pronounced. And they said Dracut. And now you're saying Dracut. Officials did not disclose that Leslie was sitting on the grand jury hearing evidence about the state prosecution of Reed, who was acquitted by a jury in June of killing her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, in 2022. And here's where they lose me. However, 2 people familiar with the allegations confirmed that she was accused of leaking information related to Reed's case. Who are these 2 people that are familiar with the allegations? Because nowhere in any of the charging documents or the plea agreement, Dracut. Dracut. It's Dracut. I'm learning. I want to know who these 2 people familiar with the allegations are. Is it the not so confidential informant mafia masshole, Kate Peter? Because the Twitter spin on this, and yes, I'm going to call it Twitter forever. I don't care. Don't stop to leave me a stupid comment about how you can't watch me anymore because I sound so stupid when I say Twitter, because I don't care. It's Twitter. Mafia Masshole has already spun this around to say that this woman, Ms. Leslie, leaked the information to Karen Reed and Turtle Boy. However, as we're going to see from the charging documents, she started leaking the information in August of 2022, and that's before Aidan Carney ever even started reporting about Karen Reed's case. Attorney Keith Halpern, who represents Leslie, declined to comment Tuesday. She has been charged in an information, a federal charging document that signals that a plea agreement has been reached. A change of plea hearing has yet to be scheduled. Reed, 45, was acquitted of second-degree murder, manslaughter by drunk driving, and leaving the scene of a crash resulting in death. She was convicted of a charge of operating under the influence, a misdemeanor. That was the lone charge available to the jury that did not involve them finding that Reed struck her boyfriend O'Keefe with a car. It was the second trial for Reed after another jury ended with a mistrial a year ago. Prosecutors alleged Reed drunkenly and intentionally backed her SUV into O'Keefe outside the Canton home of Boston police officer Brian Albert after a night of bar hopping and left him to die in a blizzard on January 29th of 2022. The lawyer said she was framed and that O'Keefe entered the home where he was fatally beaten and possibly mauled by Albert's German Shepherd, Chloe, or Cora, now known as Cora. If you know, you know, if that's even Cora or Chloe. I think Chloe may be in witness protection, but a lot of people think Chloe is at the Endless Heaven dog buffet. Before his body was dumped on the front lawn. In a highly unusual move, the U.S. Attorney's Office convened a grand jury to investigate the state's handling of Reed's murder prosecution before the case went to trial. While federal grand jury proceedings are by law secret, details of the probe into the Norfolk District Attorney's prosecution of Reed spilled into public view during state court proceedings. Norfolk District Attorney Michael Marcy wrote letters to the Justice Department in 2023 raising concerns about, quote, the unprecedented use of federal power to interfere with a state homicide investigation. According to court filings, we read all of those letters. Remember how long ago that was? You sent me the link on the DOJ website. It's true. Well, I just read the press release and it doesn't say anything about Karen Reed's case specifically. The federal crash reconstruction experts. Oh, wait. I just lost my spot. Federal authorities hired crash reconstruction experts, yes, we know, ARCA, who concluded that O'Keefe's injuries were inconsistent with being struck by a car. That same expert was later called by Reed's defense to testify at her state murder trial. Well, there were two experts. The crash daddies, not just one. Maybe they just get even the basics wrong. Maybe they're only referring to Dr. Rentschler because he's the one who concluded that the injuries were inconsistent with being struck by a car. Right? Dr. Wolf had nothing to do with the injuries. The federal crash reconstruction report was among some 3,000 pages of documents, including grand jury statements by witnesses that the first U.S. Attorney's Office turned over to Reed's lawyers and state prosecutors prior to her first trial. The U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI declined to comment on the federal investigation. However, it was disclosed during state court proceedings in Reed's case that all of the people who were inside Albert's home around the time of O'Keefe's death were subpoenaed to testify before the federal grand jury. In March, state prosecutors revealed during pretrial proceedings in Reed's murder case that the federal grand jury investigation into the state's handling of her case was closed. Oh yeah, remember? Brennan said that. It's interesting because this information actually does say through March 4th, I think. Wait, we'll get to it. I don't think it says 2025 though. I thought it was 2024. Until now, federal prosecutors have not pursued any charges related to the Reed case. Until now, it says until now. Until now. I wonder if she took a deal so that she could roll over on other people. What do you think? Singing like a bird, people are saying. Singing like a bird. This is just the beginning. You ain't seen nothing yet. Nope, you ain't seen nothing yet. Let's take a look at the information. So I see something. Yeah. Between August 11th, 2022 and March 4th of 2024 is when this person was apparently leaking information to people unknown. This is so exciting. Buckle up, buttercups. Buckle up, buttercups. You know it. Look at Susan C. gifting 5 memberships. Thank you. That is very, very sweet and kind of you. Peaches became a new member. Welcome. Connie So Fancy says, you mean Jen McCabe didn't close this case for the feds like she said on the stand? I'm in shock and horror. She did say that, right? She said, I was such great help to them that they closed their federal investigation. She tried to get that out so badly. Thanks, Connie. Just a little technical perjury says, all the way from Norway. Thanks for your super chat. Sure, Hanky, the feds are done. I think there's a lot more to be seen. Piney Woods. I don't want to tell it to you because I'll get 9,000 emails. Can you just look in the show notes and it says for inquiries and then it has my email right there in the show notes. Thank you for your super chat. The Goodmans are here and said, Brian said you knew you would be live. Brian knew you would be live. I know you. So many of you sent it to me. I thought you wanted to hear about it. So here I am. Dracut. NYC Bulldog. If you can't pronounce Dracut, just say Lowell. All right. But that's probably Lowell, right? Like LOL. Lowell. Arca is laughing. Arca is laughing. Thanks, NYC Bulldog. ShamWow from Canada. The whistles are starting to blow. Dever's biting her lip. She will blow her whistle too. Dever saw all the video that was deleted. Thanks for your opinion. Queen Olive has been here for 9 months. Thank you and welcome and awesome. Okay, let's take a look. First, we're going to look at the information and then we're going to look at the plea agreement. Carmen knows your address. Carmen knows your address. She is telling them everything. She's telling them everything. I have so many questions. And reading these papers to you is just going to give me more questions. Who was she telling? Who were the two sources that spoke to the Boston Globe and said this is definitely related to the Karen Read case? Here it is. The U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts filed 7/11/25. Federal Court, the United States of America versus Jessica M. Leslie. Hey guys, the ice cream truck is coming. Yeah, this might be like it's like shots fired over the bow. Like, okay, anybody else? Anybody else want to come in and make a sweetheart deal? 1 day in jail, time served. Thanks, I ain't no dummy. Information count 1, criminal contempt, 18 USC section 4013. The United States Attorney charges from about August 11th of 2022 through on or about March 4th of 2024 in the District of Massachusetts, the defendant, Jessica M. Leslie, knowingly and willfully disobeyed and resisted a lawful order, rule, decree, and command of a court of the United States. That is Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E2. And the order and command of the Honorable Indira Talwani, United States District Judge, on May 26th of 2022, that a grand juror must not disclose a matter occurring before the grand jury when, on diverse dates, she disclosed information presented to the grand jury to unauthorized individuals, to wit, the names of various witnesses appearing before the grand jury and the substance of their testimony and other evidence presented to the grand jury, all while said information was under seal and not subject to disclosure. All in violation of Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 401, Sub 3. XOXO, Leah B. Foley, United States Attorney, by Ann Peruti, P-A-R-U-T-I, who's an assistant U.S. attorney, and that was dated July 11th, which was just Friday. Oh, Jessica, you got some explaining to do. Here is the plea agreement. This was just filed also on Friday. And this is to her attorney, Keith Halpern. Boston guy. Does anybody know Keith Halpern? Mark Stone says, women can never keep secrets. Regarding the United States versus Jessica M. Leslie, dear Attorney Halpern, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts and your client, Jessica Leslie, defendant, agree as followed. as follows, pursuant to the Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure, Rule 11C1C. Number 1, change of plea. As soon as practicable, defendant will waive indictment and plead guilty to count 1 of the information, criminal contempt in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 4013. I know you were just kidding. I know. I just thought it was funny. Defendant admits that the defendant committed the crime specified in this count and is in fact guilty of it. They're always watching. They're always watching. And it makes me wonder how they found out. I have so many questions. Could they have found out because of I don't know. Well, there were 6,000 pages turned over, 4,000 were blank. There was a bunch of pages turned over in Aiden Carney's case, but they got all the emails of Michael Marcy, right? And Proctor and all of these people and all of their text messages. And did they discover any communications between, maybe, perhaps, I'm guessing, this is a complete guess, speculation. Did they find emails between this woman and Michael Marcy, between this woman and other people? This is a grand jury, actually, not a jury. This is the grand jury. I wonder how they found this out. Number 2, penalties. Defendant faces the following maximum penalties. Incarceration for any term of years. That means it's unlimited. That means if you're found guilty of criminal contempt in violation of 18 U.S.C. 4013, the judge could sentence you to whatever the judge wants to sentence you to, any term of years under the guidelines. Supervised release for 5 years, a fine of $250,000 unless incarceration is imposed, and a mandatory special assessment of $100. 3, Rule 11C1C plea. In accordance with Rule 11C1C, if the court accepts this plea agreement, the court must include the agreed disposition in the judgment. If the court rejects any part of this plea agreement, the U.S. attorney may void the agreement and/or defendant may withdraw from it. Defendant may not withdraw from defendant's plea for any other reason. Should the U.S. attorney void the agreement and/or defendant moves to withdraw defendant's guilty plea, defendant agrees to waive any defenses based upon statute of limitations, the constitutional protection against pre-indictment delay, and the Speedy Trial Act for all charges that could have been brought as of the date of this plea agreement. Number 4, sentencing guidelines. The parties agree, based on the following calculations, that defendant's total offense level under the guidelines is 10. A, defendant's base offense level is 14, USSG 211.2, and B, defendant's offense level is decreased by 2 because defendant has accepted responsibility for defendant's crime, and defendant's offense level is decreased by 2 because defendant is a 0-point offender. Defendant understands that the court is not required to follow this calculation. Defendant also understands that the government will object to any reduction in defendant's sentence based on acceptance of responsibility and may be released from the parties' agreed upon disposition in paragraph 5 if A, at sentencing, defendant directly or through counsel indicates that defendant does not fully accept responsibility for having engaged in the conduct underlying each of the elements of the crime to which defendant is pleading guilty, or B, by the time of sentencing, defendant has committed a new federal or state offense or has in any way obstructed justice. Nothing in this plea agreement affects the U.S. attorney's obligation to provide the court and the U.S. probation office with accurate and complete information regarding this case. And here's the agreed disposition, number 5. The parties agree on the following sentence. A, incarceration for 1 day deemed served. B, no fine. C, 24 months of supervised release. And D, a mandatory assessment of $100, which defendant must pay to the clerk of the court by the date of sentencing. That is basically the most sweetheart deal that you could get. It's like 1 day of incarceration deemed served, so you don't have to serve it, but, we kinda gotta give you something, so we're gonna give you that. You don't have to pay any fine at all, even though the fine could be up to $250,000. C, 24 months of supervised release, that kinda stinks, but and a $100 fine. That is a sweetheart deal. She must have a lot of information. She's telling them everything, and this is only the beginning. 6, waiver of appellate rights and challenges to conviction or sentence. Defendant has the right to challenge defendant's conviction and sentence on direct appeal. This means that defendant has the right to ask a higher court, the appeals court, to look at what happened in this case, and if the appeals court finds that the trial court or the parties made certain mistakes, overturn defendant's conviction or sentence. Also, in some instances, defendant has the right to file a separate civil lawsuit claiming that serious mistakes were made in this case and that defendant's conviction or sentence should be overturned. Notice that this was just filed today, the 15th. Today's Tuesday. The information was filed on Friday. They probably were talking to the attorney all weekend. Yesterday, they filed it today. All right. Defendant understands that defendant has these rights, but now agrees to give them up. Specifically, the defendant agrees that A, the defendant will not challenge the defendant's conviction on direct appeal or in any other proceeding, including in a separate civil lawsuit. And B, defendant will not challenge defendant's sentence, including any court orders related to forfeiture, restitution, fines, or supervised release on direct appeal or in any other proceeding, including in a separate civil lawsuit. The U.S. attorney agrees not to appeal the imposition of the sentence agreed to by the parties in paragraph 5, giving up all rights to appeal. Ms. Leslie, you are all set. Defendant understands that by agreeing to the above, oh wait, where are we? Just lost my place. Okay. The U.S. attorney agrees not to appeal. Lost my place. Because I highlighted it in advance. Anyway, she's waiving her right to appeal. She wanted to challenge the conviction or the sentence. The U.S. attorney agrees not to appeal the imposition of the sentence agreed to by the parties in paragraph 5. Defendant understands that by agreeing to the above, defendant is agreeing that defendant's conviction and sentence will be final when the court issues a written judgment after the sentencing hearing in this case. That is, after the court issues a written judgment, defendant will lose their right to appeal or otherwise challenge defendant's conviction and sentence, regardless of whether defendant later changes defendant's mind or finds new information that would have led defendant not to agree to give up these rights in the first place. This is pretty ironclad. Defendant is agreeing to give up these rights in exchange for concessions the U.S. attorney is making in this agreement. The parties agree that despite giving up these rights, defendant keeps the right to later claim that defendant's lawyer rendered ineffective assistance of counsel, or that the prosecutor or a member of law enforcement involved in the case engaged in misconduct serious enough to entitle defendant to have defendant's conviction or sentence overturned. 7, civil liability. This plea agreement does not affect any civil liability, including any tax liability defendant has incurred or may later incur due to defendant's criminal conduct and guilty plea to the charges specified in paragraph 1 of this agreement. Oops. You can still be sued civilly. Number 8, breach of plea agreement. Defendant understands that if defendant breaches any provision of this agreement, violates any condition of defendant's pretrial release, or commits any crime following defendant's execution of this plea agreement, defendant cannot rely upon such conduct to withdraw defendant's guilty plea. Defendant's conduct, however, would give the U.S. attorney the right to be released from the U.S. attorney's commitments under this agreement to pursue any charges that were or are to be dismissed under this agreement and to use against defendant any of defendant's statements and any information or materials defendant provided to the government during investigation or prosecution of defendant's case, even if the parties had entered any earlier written or oral agreements or understandings about this issue. Jane says, whoever sings first sings best. Defendant also understands that if defendant breaches any provision of this agreement or engages in any of the aforementioned conduct, defendant thereby waives any defense based on the statute of limitations, constitutional protections against pre-indictment delay, and the Speedy Trial Act that the defendant otherwise may have had to any charges based on conduct occurring before the date of this agreement. 9. Who is bound by plea agreement? This agreement is only between defendant and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts. It does not bind the Attorney General of the United States or any other federal, state, or local prosecuting authorities. 10. Modifications to plea agreement. This agreement can be modified or supplemented only in a written memorandum signed by both parties or through proceedings in open court. If this letter accurately reflects the agreement between the U.S. Attorney and defendant, please have defendant sign the acknowledgement of plea agreement below. Please also sign below as a witness. Return the original of this letter to the Assistant U.S. Attorney, Ann Peruti. XOXO, Leah B. Foley, U.S. Attorney. Signed by William Abley, the Chief of the Criminal Division, and Ann Peruti, Assistant U.S. Attorney, and also signed by the defendant, but here's what she had to sign. Acknowledgement of plea agreement. I have read this letter and discussed it with my attorney. The letter accurately presents my agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts. There are no unwritten agreements between me and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and no United States government official has made any unwritten promises or representations to me in connection with my guilty plea. I have received no prior offers to resolve this case. I understand the crime I am pleading guilty to and the maximum penalties for that crime. I have discussed the sentencing guidelines with my lawyer, and I understand the sentencing ranges that may apply. I am satisfied with the legal representation my lawyer has given me, and we have had enough time to meet and discuss my case. We have discussed the charge against me, possible defenses I might have, the terms of this agreement, and whether I should go to trial. I am entering into this agreement freely and voluntarily, and because I am in fact guilty of the offense. I believe this agreement is in my best interest. XOXO. Jessica M. Leslie, dated yesterday, July 14th. And then her attorney signed beneath her. I certify that Jessica Leslie has read this agreement and that we've discussed what it means. I believe Jessica Leslie understands the agreement and is not entering into it freely, and is entering into it freely, voluntarily, and knowingly. I also certify that the U.S. Attorney has not extended any other offers regarding a change of plea in this case. Keith Halpern, dated July 14th of 2025. Let's take a look at the federal docket. Oops. So you can see by looking at the federal docket, which I will pull up now, that the first filing was on Friday, July 11th. Felony. So we just read the information, and then there was an electronic notice of case assignment, and it was assigned to Judge Indira Talwani, but then it was transferred. Oh, actually, it was referred to a magistrate judge. Okay. Paige Kelly. And then it says here, appointment of attorney Keith Halpern. I'm not sure if that means that he's court appointed, like he's a public defender for federal stuff. I don't know. And then the plea agreement was filed today, the 15th. And we looked at that as well. And then there's an electronic notice of hearing for initial appearance as to Jessica Leslie, set for 7/22/25, 11:15 a.m., courtroom 24, in person only, before Magistrate Judge M. Page Kelly. And so that's that. We don't know who she leaked it to. We don't know who she leaked it to. And the information does not say that it's even regarding the Karen Reed case, but the Boston Globe swears that they talked to two people who told them that it was. Let's take a look. Neither did the press release. Just have to say, we don't know how they caught her. I don't know. So much more. So much more. Mark Betterow said, as he attached the Boston Globe article 3 hours ago, this is fascinating and potentially damaging for others. That she is immediately pleading guilty to an information means she negotiated a plea early in the process, which may also prove damaging for others. Let's go to the chat. What say you? Wall's coming crumbling down yet? Hang on. Just Iris says she's telling them everything. Bang, 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 bang. Piney Woods, thank you. Had a misspelling. Oh, you're welcome. Goodman's gifted a membership. Thanks, Goodman's. Christy R said, what date did the phones start to disappear? Higgins and Brian Albert destroyed their phones when, you guys? I'm going to say right before the preservation order. I know it was in the fall. September of 2022 is what I want to say. I was going to say 22 or 23, and I believe it's September of 2022. And that's interesting because according to these documents, it appears that the grand jury convened in August of 2022, which is like earlier, I think, than any of us thought, right? I think the reason she's getting such a light sentence is because she's agreeing to roll over on other people. There's always a reason. And you can get a sweetheart deal if you're the first one to start singing. And who knows what they were really investigating. May not have been just the John O'Keefe murder. So that was September. Yes, Brian was just getting a new phone for his birthday. That's right. That's right. Thanks, Chrissy. Great question. Scott telling the chat, there were two grand juries, one Massachusetts to up Karen Reed's charges to second degree, right? And that was before June of 2022. Meanwhile, the feds had a grand jury investigating all these conspirators or, Scott, I'm going to add, or perhaps the MSP, perhaps the Norfolk DA's office, because Michael Marcy was like wicked afraid. And he filed that, or he made that hostage video in August of 2023. Remember? Crazy. Million Night Wahoo for the love of the traveling trooper. Kate became a member. Welcome. Paul Mahoney, how do we know it's not Turtle Boy that she leaked it to? P.S. Nikki and I will be at SPAC and the races this weekend. Will you be sporting a chapeau? Is anybody going to the Dave Matthews shows in New Hampshire? You might see me there. Maybe. I don't know. Undetermined. SPAC is hard. SPAC is hard because there's like nowhere to stay there. Something's really bothering me about this new lip stain. It's like, makes me look like I have a blister on my lip, but I don't. Thanks, Paul. Gator Girl says, hey, got a hold of Larry, the DUI guy. He's got the court paperwork on Bohm. Okay, cool. Cool. I will. Thank you. Somebody brought that to my attention earlier today. But I don't know that he has the court paperwork. I think he's got the transcripts, and I was looking for the indictment. SPAC is the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. It's a music venue in Saratoga Springs, New York. And also they have racing there in the summertime where the ponies are running in Saratoga. It's racing season. Shamwow says Marcy was on the witness list first trial. Aiden was not. Kay Willis is a realtor. I'm a bit behind, but it's pronounced Dracut. Oh, thank you. I like that. I like that phonetic spelling. Dracut. Your thoughts if this has impact on the Karen Read civil case? Well, Karen Read, you mean the case that she's going to file or the case that she's being sued in? I mean, I don't think it's going to affect her wrongful death, the case that she's being sued in, but when she files a Section 1983, 1984 case, civil rights action, it may. Joan became a member. Welcome. Yeah. So if you look at, the other side of this, they say, I mean, depending on who you follow on Twitter or who you watch on Twitter, is they're going to say that she leaked the information to Turtle Boy and to Karen Read's team. The other side is going to say perhaps she leaked the information to Michael Morrissey and or people on the other side of this, the witnesses, the McCabe's, the Alberts. But already, they're on the other side. She thinks she knows everything, and she also thinks she's protected. Oh, she's also live right now. Oh, I can't even click on it to give them the view. But I guess she's live with Yellow Cottage Cheese right now, actually. And she says here, she says, remember a month ago when I said Karen still had to deal with the federal stuff? The feds are coming. Stay tuned. I mean, that's what they think. I don't know. Maven says Marcy was the one begging for information on the federal investigation. Oh, yes, he was. We have all those letters. We have all those letters going back to, I think, May of 2023. He was freaking out. Freaking out. This woman was a member of the grand jury that was convened by the federal government to hear evidence about maybe the investigation of the investigation and or MSP and or the district attorney's office. That's who she is. She was a member. She was on the grand jury. And it sounds like that grand jury sat for a very long time because the allegations here are that between the time period of August 11th of 2022 through on or about March 4th of 2024, this woman, Jessica Leslie, knowingly and willfully disobeyed and resisted a lawful order that a grand juror must not disclose a matter occurring before the grand jury. And the allegations are, and she's pleading guilty to this, that she disclosed information presented to the grand jury to unauthorized individual. To wit, here's what she told them: the names of various witnesses appearing before the grand jury and the substance of their testimony and other evidence presented to the grand jury, all while said information was under seal and not subject to disclosure. What do you think? Aaron says, Turtle Boy knows better than to talk to a federal grand juror. Spark plug in all caps, which really is frowned upon, but I'll read it anyway. To get only one day of punishment, she had to be singing like a canary, I believe. It's coming down the pike, and it's about to get interesting. Mariko True says, I just don't see Karen Reed's defense team talking to someone who leaked proprietary information, right, or secret grand jury information, unless they immediately called that federal organization that the Commonwealth will not name, not Voldemort. That's it, the only thing that makes sense to me is that I don't know that I don't know that she said something to either the district attorney's office, somebody connected with the district attorney's office, some of the witnesses. Because let's face it, so many people on the other side of this knew so much information that was private, so much sooner than anybody else knew it. Had to be someone with power, right? Addie B. Slots, Tully and Marcy are shady and should probably talk to them. I mean, look, all of the stuff that's coming out right now in Aiden's case, all of the text messages between Tully, Mello, Cosgrove has apparently had this information since like December, never turned it over. All of the disclosures that came out. Remember Brennan was the taint team for Michael Marcy's emails? Remember Brennan said, I can't trust anybody to be the taint team. I'm just going to take it on myself. I'm just going to do all the extra work during Karen retrial. And he said he's the one who went through all of Marcy's emails himself. This could be really, really, really big. Jose Martinez says Brian Albert's daughter worked for the DOJ. 1 day sentence for a felony is suspended. Time served, says Susan. That was telling. They released the texts requested at the last Turtle Boy. Well, at the hearing, you mean. But 4,000 of those pages were blank. And maybe not all of them. Yeah, I don't want to spread the rumors. So people say there's rumors floating around on Twitter about who she is, but also think about who's leaking those rumors. They're very deliberate in the things that they leak. Trust me. Akudo, thanks for your 10. Wasn't Karen Reed's defense team alluding to this in season 2? Didn't Alan Jackson say, I'm going to be back here in about a month? Didn't he say that? I'll be back here in about a month? Karen Reed was acquitted on June 18th. It's July 15th. I don't know. Why did he say he was going to be back here in a month? It was very mysterious when he said that, right? Selective memory failure. Mike Truth has no doubt says, my money is on Kate Peter and Jennifer Coffendoffer. Interesting. We know her name. Her name is Jessica Leslie. It doesn't sound, it could be a very common name. People are saying she's a soccer coach. I don't know. I have no idea. He said, we're not done yet, says Lori Dean. Kathy Sousa says, yes, he did. Grace Bess says, OMG, is this what he's coming back for? Jen C, I don't even want to tell you. I'm new to all this. Who or what is yellow cottage cheese? It's a man who lives in an attic. His name is Kevin, and he's got a YouTube channel called Yellow Cottage Tales. I call it Yellow Cottage Cheese. He also just wrote a book. Auntie Deb is reading that book in summer reading for the students every morning, reading a chapter of that book. And he even paid it. He paid $25 for it. Everyone, please hit the like button because we got like 14,000 people here. Yep. How did the feds find out? We don't know. We don't know. It's just about as secret as a grand jury. But this grand juror was telling them everything. We don't know who she was telling. James Lynch says it means that Marcy and company are crapping their pants. On Howie Carr, he said he was coming back in a month, says Alita. Yeah, I think he did. He also said we're not done yet. And I took that to mean that they would be filing a civil rights action in federal court against perhaps many parties for violating Karen's civil rights. I'm going to show you. Thank you to whoever clipped this. It was from my show when I interviewed or had a conversation with, actually, Bob Alessi and David Yannetti. If I can find out where I put it. Somebody clipped it and they said, I remember when I saw their face, it was telling me everything when I mentioned 1983 claims. And now I can't find it. But it was my own content that somebody clipped. If anybody knows where it is, you can send it to me. What say you? I also heard Bob Alessi might be having a podcast or doing like putting together a podcast because I think Laura posted that. Free at last. Thanks. Chloe is sleeping with the fishes from Australia. Thank you for your super chat. Jason Schneider says, wow. And Mel was just saying, what are we going to do after the Karen retrial? Haha, looks like we're in luck. Yeah, we were on for 4 hours today talking about other things. And here we are, back again. Mo Hippie Show Me says, Dr. Turtleboy was in jail from December 26th of 2023 to February 23rd of 2024. Karen's defense team got the federal info drop in February of 2024. This grand jury leaker to Morrissey, that I could believe 100%. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Madeline Wags, thanks for your 5, says, love you so much, Melanie. You're so smart and funny and always here for us. We appreciate you so much. Oh, thank you. You're very sweet. Thanks, Joan, for becoming a member. Janice says, how could they have caught her and got her to plea? I don't know how they caught her, but my guess, and would be that a lot of the emails and information and text messages that they got must have led them in this direction. And then they must have charged her. She got an attorney, and here they are. It's happened very, very, very quickly. Very quickly. But the sweetheart deal that she got makes me think that she's rolling over. It's better than paying a $250,000 fine and risking an unlimited jail sentence based on the guidelines and based on whatever they want to throw you in jail for in the federal prison. Club Fed. She's cooperating. Thank you, MF. It's pronounced Dracut. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I learned so much from watching Melanie TV. Thank you for the love of the traveling trooper. Sumo says, in my opinion, she was telling Marcy and Tully everything. They found the proof in his and Tully's emails that's just been handed over. Could be. Could be. Ms. Peaches is thanking me for going over this. Thank you. The traveling troopers are still going everywhere. Thank you. Yep, we just covered that. How did Marcy know there was an investigation into his office to send the letters to Josh Levy? He said in the letters that people had told him that they were called in. He said that witnesses in the Karen Read case told him that they had been subpoenaed. And we know that Jen McCabe had Michael Marcy on speed dial because he attached one of her text messages to him in the letter he wrote from his burner email, or the email that he wrote from his burner email to all the Stoughton Court judges. He attached a text message from Jennifer McCabe. I know it's late, but I'm so mad that Chris didn't get it, meaning the restraining order against Aiden Carney. When the levee breaks, says ShamWow, I think we got to keep going with the playlist now, right? Bowie the Lab, thanks for your 10. I was on a federal grand jury in the same court. This was likely a federal corruption grand jury investigation, and federal grand juries in that court convene in August with an average 18-month term. Was likely leaking info the entire time she was on. Could be. Well, that makes sense. Federal corruption, and right? That's about an 18-month period. And they've got the receipts. And I am telling you that if the receipts are as bad as I think they may be, but that they have enough to charge someone else with corruption, perhaps, that they've got all the receipts. She could have done some serious time. She's singing like a canary. Of course, federal case isn't closed. Yeah, they're not done. They're not done. Oh, thanks, Madeline. I think I thanked you already. Cara says this comes out right before Alessi's podcast. I don't know when that's happening. I don't think he really said when. M169, to get such a sweetheart deal, she's telling them everything. Morrissey to Kate Peter to others. I don't even want to click on that stream to see what they're saying, but it's going to be fun to watch later. I'm not even going to watch it. I'll hear about it. You guys can tell me about it. Glare will do it probably. Will, are you here? Will? Paging Will, the Glara. Are you going to go over the Yellow Cottage cheat? Are you over there already in the chat, like trolling? Jade says, wouldn't this mean the federal case isn't closed? That's exactly what it means. Or the grand jury could be done. And they're just collecting. I don't really. Well, it says this person was leaking information from August 11th to March 4th of 2024. Hank Brennan said that the FBI investigation was over in March of 2025. Because what? Helena Rafferty wrote it on her letterhead for the Canton PD. Like, that means nothing. She's retiring, or she's already left. Collusion can't prove a collision says 2 streams in one day. You're the best. Off topic. Is that a new poster in the middle behind you? If so, at which show did you get it? Just curiosity from one song lyric thinker to another. No, that is Dead and Company from the forum. That's always been there. My head is usually just in front of it. And I just don't know. I don't know what the date is. Inglewood, May 20th, 2023. Thanks for asking. Kate says, I wonder if she watches your show. The Grand Juror? Sumo, or the juror told Morrissey all about who was testifying, etc. The feds will really want to know how Morrissey found out. Well, also, I think they probably already know that. But also, perhaps she was telling them what they were testifying to so that they could keep their timeline straight, remember their testimony. Glare needs to do a petty stream. Yeah, I know. I see what you're saying over there. Stephen Cotter, thank you for the very succinct recap. A woman, Jessica Leslie, charged with leaking information while she was on the Karen Reed federal grand jury. She pleaded guilty and has told the feds everything. And who knows who she implicated, and who knows who she was leaking that information to. No, I do not think that Beverly Cannoni will be the judge of Karen's civil suits. I do not think that will happen in any world. I do not think that will happen. So no, let's not. I don't know where that came from. I mean, I saw where it came from. She's been assigned to Plymouth Civil Court. That doesn't mean that her case is going to get assigned to her, but I saw the internet running rampant. So please, when you want accurate information, just come to me. Come to me. What was in it for her? Leniency, because she's guilty of federal criminal contempt. And that is a really big deal. It's a really big deal. It is normal for judges to be transferred. They get rotated all the time in that county. They get rotated all the time. Do you remember when during or right before the Karen Reed retrial, maybe it was the end of last year, Bev Cannoni or Judge Cannoni was taken off the Brian Walsh case and taken off the Harry Turk case, and she was kept on the Karen Reed case. And so now They get rotated, those judges, all the time, which is weird for me. I'm a New York lawyer, and here in New York, our judges are elected, and they are elected to the seat in which they sit for their entire term. And so if you are elected to serve in Brooklyn Supreme Court, that is where you serve. Brooklyn Supreme Court is civil, and that's our lowest civil court. Well, jurisdiction over 50,000. It's not like small claims. If you are elected to Brooklyn Criminal Court, you sit in Brooklyn Criminal Court. If you're elected to Family Court, you sit in Family Court. It's not, these judges get moved all around like priests, get shuffled all around, and they're appointed, not elected. No, I'm not from Boston, Tam Jules. I'm not, but I have friends and family from Norfolk County specifically. They have been telling me for decades, like since the 80s, how corrupt the police in Norfolk County are. That is why, one of the reasons why I became interested in this. Gail says, when are people going to learn you cannot get away with anything nowadays with all the technology and cameras? She's not in the Plymouth court. She's in another court in Brockton. I know. I didn't want to get into the nuts and bolts and details of it, but she's transferred out of Norfolk for now. Who knows how long these assignments last? Yeah, I'm a Long Island girl, born and bred. Just across the sound from you guys, just across a ferry away. I'm a ferry away. I think the floodgates are about to open too, Britt. I think so too. The dominoes are starting to fall. This is the first one. Clink, clink, clink. That's what I think. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I already did 4 hours this morning, so now we're here for 1 hour and 5. I'll keep you, I guess, until Aiden goes live at 9, and I'll teleport you over there. How's that? The chips are falling. I mean, she's telling them everything. Here, let's look at the article from WCVB. Oh, and thanks you guys for showing me reader view. I'm so excited because now these stupid pop-ups don't happen. This, I don't know. What does this have to do with the Emmys? I'm sorry. It says grand juror admits leaking information in Karen Reed case. Then it says nominations for the 77th Emmy Awards. Okay, thanks. That's not the Karen Reed story that I was looking for. Appreciate you, but no. I guess reader mode doesn't always work. Boston, a woman who served on the grand jury as part of the investigation into Karen Reed agreed to plead guilty to a federal charge. She leaked information from the secret proceeding, according to a court document filed Tuesday, ABC News learned. Jessica Leslie, 34, of Dracut, agreed to plead guilty to a charge of criminal contempt that accused her of willfully disobeying court rules against disclosure of grand jury information. Leslie disclosed, quote, the names of various witnesses appearing before the grand jury and the substance of their testimony and other evidence presented to the grand jury, all while said information was under seal and not subject to disclosure. Federal prosecutors said, while the charging document did not specify that Leslie was a grand juror in the Reed case, sources confirmed it to ABC News. Okay, so these same sources confirmed it to the Boston Globe. Maybe is it the same sources or different sources? The Boston Globe said 2 sources confirmed it to them, and ABC News said sources confirmed it to them. And then we know in June, Reed was acquitted. Plea hearing was not immediately scheduled, but that's wrong because we know now it's going to be next Tuesday in federal court. Federal prosecutors did not say how they learned Leslie had disclosed secret grand jury information, but sources said authorities had been monitoring social media accounts and other communications during a case that received widespread attention. Oh. Authorities had been monitoring social media accounts and communications. Oh, you know what I heard? Hmm. I've heard that the friends and family, well, this is just one example of social media where nothing good happens, apparently. It's called Discord. There's a couple of Discord groups out there that a lot of these friends and family of the witnesses have been participating in, and many of them have leaked some of these Discord messages. And maybe that's where they found him, on Discord. I don't know. It's not like they're getting them off of Facebook, in my opinion. The feds are on it, says Lisa. Songbiz Laura is here and became a member. Thank you. Angie says, add the never ending story to the playlist, because this story is definitely never ending. Akudo, thanks for your 5. How did Diva know about the timeline of the defense? Interesting. West Virginia, I'm assuming this has been going on for a while. Could they have been sitting on this for a while? Yep. Yep. They like to pounce, at exactly the right time for them. It took them how many years to indict Matthew Farwell on federal murder charges? About 3 years. It's all coming out. Thanks, Sonny. Shamwa, I think Dever is next to come out. She did the right thing at first. Then when she was sent to the office, she would do the right thing. Maybe one day in jail, time served. I mean, her career is pretty much over, right? Maybe she should do the right thing. She wants to save herself. Thanks, Shamwow from Canada. Tammy, could this mean Auntie Bev may be under investigation? Judicial immunity apply? No, not judicial immunity would not apply if there were criminal charges or fraud or corruption or anything like that. Judicial immunity applies in duties that are judicial in nature. Anything outside of that, like any criminal charges, would not entitle one to judicial immunity. Shelley said maybe the info about the leak was revealed in some messages under protective order in another case. That's what I was thinking, because they just got a big dump in Aiden Carney's case. And also they got, some stuff in Karen Reed's case that was not allowed into evidence. Who knows if it came from there? And also, the feds can get their own information however they want, whenever they want, and whatever they want. So they have wide powers. Their powers go far and wide. Yeah, Yellow Cottage Cheese is saying it was to Karen or Turtle Boy. Of course they are. They're playing CYA over there. CYA. Kemin Oak, couldn't this be related to the Sandra B case? When was Matthew Farwell indicted? I mean, wouldn't that be wild? Because I've been thinking that too. I've been thinking, like, how do we know this is a Karen Reed? It's because these alleged sources said it to ABC. Hold on a second. I just want to Google that now. He was arrested in August of 2024. That's when his indictment came down. I don't know. Right? So I don't know. Wouldn't it be wild, though, if they all got it wrong? They also said the defense rested when they didn't. That's right, live for now, and you're probably watching me. And I said, they didn't rest. Let's keep watching. And they didn't. Christy Granger, Karen Reed movie about to be a Star Wars trilogy. Yeah. Definitely a series. Definitely a trilogy. Deanne says, how are people picked for a grand jury? How much is Jen shaking in her boots? Her new BFF isn't the only one who can tell everything. You get a jury summons in the mail just the same as you would if you were a regular jury. You can get a grand jury summons in the mail. So it just depends on the jury summons that you get, whether you're going to which court you go to. Thank you. Just Irish, the lenient sentence is a dog whistle for others to come forward, in my opinion. I agree. For the love of the traveling troopers, so many messed up cases. Maybe they're all connected. It could be. Could be, right? TJ Coco, when did the federal grand jury convene? Well, it said there in August of 2022. TJ Coco, we need a timeline. When did the federal grand jury convene? Well, this document that we read, the information said it was August of 2022. When was Dever called to Cox's office? She said it was right before the first trial, right? Which could have made it like 2024, right? That trial started in April of 2024, right? And when did new evidence and reports suddenly appear, et cetera? I think they're scared. I do think they're scared. People are saying, I don't think they're scared. I do. Wouldn't you be? Hang tight. I want to set up the redirect so you can buckle up, and I'll send you over to see what Aiden's got to say about all of this. At 9 o'clock. What? No signal for these big mouths? Somebody said I saw slip fly by. It was in August 2022, the first date of the leak. Well, it said between these dates, yeah. Rico would be insane, right? All right, I'm going to send you to Turtle Boy. Buckle your seatbelts. Buckle up, buttercups. Buckle up. Let's do a cupcake invasion. You guys are the best. Thanks to the mods for doing it twice for me today. They're amazing. They've got unbelievable stamina. Kay Willis gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. For the love of the traveling trooper. Did you notice my kitty is watching you on TV? I didn't. Oh, in your profile picture. That's adorable. I can't see it. It's very tiny and my eyes stink. I'll enlarge it later. Connie so fancy said, what? No signal app for these big mouths. And Janice said they never grab the crime boss. They start by flipping low level, some low level soldier like a grand juror. Could be. Who knows? Please break it down. What does this really mean, says Kim McMillan? It means a grand juror has been indicted and is pleading guilty to leaking secret grand jury information about what the grand jury grand jury heard, what witnesses they heard from, what they testified about. And they leaked all of this information to someone against the federal rules and federal law. And they are only going to get 1 day in jail suspended and no fine. And they're getting a little teeny weeny slap on the wrist. 2 years of supervised, I don't know, release. But it means big, big trouble for somebody else because they wouldn't give that kind of a sweetheart deal unless they were going to be catching some bigger fish. We don't know who the bigger fish are, and we don't know who they told. So switch over and shut up. Did you really just say that to me? Sheppy fun? I'm sorry. Is it impossible for you to actually get there by yourself? It's been nice knowing you. Not really so much. What a douchebag. I'm sorry. Are you unable to actually physically go there yourself? Do you see what I deal with? Do you see what I deal with? I'm here for the second time today for you. And this is what I got. This is the thanks I got. Who says that? Sheppy fun? You don't sound like a lot of fun to me. Peace out, my friends. Peace out. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. Not like don't be like Sheppy fun. No, I'm gonna stay here for another minute just to piss him off. Thanks, Chastity, for gifting a membership. Buckle up, buttercups. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Safe travel.